Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to another episode of B is for Build. In today's episode, we're going to be focusing on taking the two halves of the R35 GTR and putting it together, welding at the seam, and then making it look like we never cut the car in half in the first place. So a little bit of technical moving around of seat mounts, center console, stuff like that. That's what's in store for today's episode. Stay tuned. My Raptor's cold start is oddly high after we changed the transmission, which I have no idea why that would be. Anyways, we're getting a bit of a late start today. I had to go to the doctor's this morning. A little bit of weird news on that front, a little bit of bad news, which I will talk about at the end of the episode. So Oscar's been cutting away already, so let's get to the shop and see what he's done. Just casually walking through cars. Just walk right through the middle of the GTR. All right, guys, let me get you updated on some of the progress that we've made. One of the biggest things that's been done is the second cut has been made. So 4.75 inches away from that original cut, the second cut was made. Oscar has came in and started prepping some of the surfaces to be welded back up. And then we've got our little strips. This is the amount of, these are small strips of the pieces that have been taken out. And we're gonna use these to do some nice overlap work. Now you see this this is sound deadening stuff on the tops of all of these pieces. There's some right there, there's some right here, and there's some right here. And we have to get that off by using dry ice. So we're finally getting to play with some dry ice in the shop. If you guys don't know, basically you just cover your stuff with dry ice to cool it down a lot, and then once you hit this stuff with a hammer, it'll pop off of the surface underneath. So we're gonna chip away at our 10-pound block of dry ice before we have fun with it, and then chip away, cover all this stuff right here, and then we'll knock that sound deadening crap off of there. We've got all the metal now prepared to be welded. You guys saw how we threw the dry ice on here and let it cool the sound deadening down. Then you just hit it with a hammer and that sound deadening stuff will pop off. And then we used a wire wheel on our grinder and that also got a lot more of it off. So it is now prepped to be welded together. We got to scoot these sides together and start welding. Hey, Oscar got the car back together again. So this morning what we were working on is inserting, so this is a main frame rail support. It runs all the way through the front there and then eventually ties into a frame rail going forward. So we wanted to reinforce this and it'll help us with the vertical load. So this rail and that rail, the trans tunnel, and then that rail will help with the vertical load. So there's a piece of 120 wall, that's the same wall that you'd use for a roll cage, rectangle tubing running right through this now that we're gonna be, you can see we'll weld into it here, we'll weld into it here, we'll probably drill a few holes here and there and weld into it in those spots, just really reinforcing that frame rail. Now we got the car back together, it's lined up pretty dang well on both of these sides. So what Oscar's gonna be doing is lining these things up, getting them adjusted, and then starting to weld different seams together when they look good. And we'll be kind of walking, working the way through this, welding different things when they match up right. Oscar's working on the welding. It's time to take a shift into drive shaft world. So this is the main drive shaft that runs from the front to rear. I believe it is a carbon composite. We're gonna find out in a second when we cut into it, but it's definitely a composite material that this is made out of. So we can't just cut it and re-weld it 4.75 inches shorter. This carbon material has to be replaced with, in this case, a steel, like a steel tube traditional drive shaft. So luckily for us, that's not exactly rocket science. That can be done. We just gotta cut this carbon composite off of these joints right here. So we're gonna be marking their top point so we keep them balanced with each other. So we got our paint pen right here to mark that, and then I just got to cut all this carbon composite. This slips into here about that far, so I got to cut all of this off, and then we'll be left with these two things, and then we can start getting a new drive shaft machined to accept these two ends. got the drive shaft all cut up. I made a mistake. I didn't measure the length of the drive shaft before I cut it into pieces, so I had to go find all my pieces and tape it back together. We're gonna have to add a little bit of distance for the amount that the saw took off, but this is a plunging joint, so there's a little bit of grace period in here. So this is what they look like when they come out of this carbon fiber. So basically this ring grips onto that carbon fiber so it can't push off that way, and then these splines, forgot the name for splines, these splines help it with the rotational. So what we're going to be doing now is we've measured this. We're going to take 4.75 inches away from this, and then we're going to go to a machine shop and have a steel drive shaft. I don't know what drive shafts are made out of as far as what type of steel. I will find out from a drive shaft expert. We're going to get that machine so it's like a push fit, press fit over these spline sides. That'll get it centered right on here. We'll be able to weld it because this is all steel. So then we'll weld that on there, and then we'll go get it balanced, and that will be our rear driveline rebuilt. The drive shaft that goes up to the front of the vehicle is a little bit more technical, so we're actually going to send this one out to be done, but we'll be able to drive the car with just the rear one and rear wheel drive until this one gets done. It really won't take that long, but that's something that we needed to have done out of town. So it's kind of a cool opportunity. We get to work with the guy that made the drive shaft for my 2JZ Swap BRZ, which I still have. I'll show you guys that in not too long when we build this new shop over here. But yeah, that's pretty cool. So Oscar's done welding the car in half. Let me show you his handiwork. I said welding the car in half, unwelding the car in half, re-welding the car from halves. So you can see on this side a little bit bigger of support strips, lots of spot welds going through here. He came in and welded that metal beam that we got going through here, and this thing is together now. We have one piece of a car once again. So now that the car's back together, we want it to look like we didn't cut it in half, because remember, the interior is the keeper part of this vehicle. So we're going to start with the first spot, which is where the seats mount up. So these seats on the GTR, it's pretty weird. There's one back here, there's one right here, and then as we come forward, you have this structure and this structure. So one way up here and one up here. Now this is 4.75 inches too close to each other. We need to move them forward. This vehicle, the rest of the chassis moving forward is relatively similar except for this bump right here. So this one's going to be more of a pain to slide forward. This one should be fine, and the other side should be totally fine. So what Oscar and I have to do is get these structures out of here so we can slide them forward and weld them back in. You can see they're just spot welded on here with a bunch of different spot welds. We've done a lot of different videos with drilling out spot welds before. We just hit them with a center punch in the center of it, drill around it with the spot weld drill bit, and then kind of pry it off and pop it off. So we should be able to get these structures out of here, slide them 4.7 inches forward, and weld them back in. We'll have that nice lateral support and the seat mounts just like OEM. Let's get to it, Oscar. Well, this is for sure the coolest part of our day. It's dry ice time. So you can see, like, Oscar's got that section out there. I mean, this all kind of just looks like a jumbled up mess right now, but progress is being made. Oscar's got that section out, then he just needs to cut his top section out. I've got my section out right here, and I needed to get this section out, but we had to get some dry ice. So it's the next day. We bought dry ice in the morning, busted all this stuff out. So we didn't really get to show the process very well last time, but you just let it sit on this stuff until you hear it popping and cracking, and then I just hit it with a hammer. And as the metal flexes, basically the sound deadening stuff won't flex, and it'll pop right off of there. So that exposes my last few spot weld drill out spots. Gonna go ahead and drill all those out, remove this, and then I get, mine's pretty simple, just move it up 4.75 inches. We'll mock it up with the seat, and then we'll be able to tack weld and then fully weld it in there. Oscar's is a little bit more complicated because we're cutting a piece off, but we'll get everything off first and then start test fitting some seats. All right, we got everything out. Our beautiful blank canvas to work with. This is one of my pieces. Another half of one of my pieces is over here. There are places, there's the other half. We need to get the seats in here. So the original mounting spot for the back of the seat relative to the back of the car is all still the same. So the seats are gonna be the same distance away from the back seats and all that stuff. We took out basically the front legroom area because I set the seat back, I measured, I had plenty of extra space. So that's where we decided to kind of take out from. So seat bolts in the back original spots, and then we need to see where the seat wants to land to do that. So now to do that, to access the bolts in the seat mounts, you have to move the seat forward and backward, and they're electrical seats. So we have to plug the seats in and turn the car on with like none of this stuff around. So we may run into a problem or we may not. We just need to get it onto the accessory mode and get it to send power to the seats. So fingers crossed. Sometimes the gauge clusters have stuff that relate to the keys that won't let you do this, but I'm hoping that without too much trouble. We also have to plug in all the grounding wires. So we'll plug in a bunch of grounds, plug the seats in, cross our fingers, and hopefully we can move them forward and backward and get them in here. Great news, we got the seats in there, and you can still fit comfortably as a human being in there without being like way too crammed into the dash. I mean, we did our measurements, but you're never sure until you're sure, right? So both the seats are in here and they're just bolted into the stock back bolts. And then now what Oscar and I are gonna be doing is taking our pieces right here, massaging them so they will fit. Like for instance, this piece goes just like this. And that part of the seat needs to bolt into right there, that part where it has a bolt. So I'll kind of sneak that in behind there and get it in there. And then once it's there, we can bolt the seat down to it and tack weld it into the frame. And then we can take the seats out and fully weld everything out. We got the front seat supports tacked in, so you can see that we bolted it to the seat, let the seat kind of designate where it lived, and did a little bit of trimming to make everything fit, and then tacked these guys in. So that's mine going across there, that's Oscar's over there. And so now the process is like getting everything nice and flat, everything level with the sheet metal below it, and then welding this whole thing out. Now these were just spot welded in here before. We'll add a ton of welds so they're in here stronger than they ever were before. Oscar got the supports all welded in. We only caught the car on fire just a handful of times. That's why we always keep our fire extinguishers at the ready. So now it's time to test fit our seats back in here. We got to lay the wiring harness down one more time so the seats have power to go forward and backward, and then we'll be able to bolt them in. Moment of truth, really. Alright guys, the car is welded together. Jump test. It's not going to break in half. Seats are in here strong. Oh, I'm not going to jump on those, that's just rude. But yeah, this is... Okay, I got a panel in my way here. That would normally be like buttoned up here, but this is like... Honestly, I probably need to move the seat forward a little bit, so we're good there. Great driving situation. I'm very happy about our 5-inch shorter GTR. I think they should just make them from the factory like this. Great job, Oscar.
No back seats?
No back, well, we will still have the back seats because they clip in and they stop right here. So, just like the original GTR, no one would ever be able to fit in them, but we'll have them. We'll have all this back interior, the speaker cover, all that rear quarter paneling, the back seats, the rear deck. It'll all be here, look like OEM. We could have very easily just originally boxed out and built aftermarket frame rails for aftermarket seats, but we're doing a body swap like this. I think having like the factory seats and everything is just gonna make it look cooler. And given what color we're thinking about doing the outside, I think the seats are gonna match well. But we're not 100% sure on a color yet, so. I know everybody wants midnight purple, but that's why all R34s are midnight purple. 71 days till SEMA. Big yikes. It's pretty hard to see, but we've got the off-road Corvette that we built. We stole the engine out of it. Got that loaded up on the trailer. This is going off to long-term storage because we're making room to build the shop, the new shop. What's up, guys? It's the next morning. We moved into our new house. I'll give you a house tour in the end of the next episode, or like just a house update, I guess. Anyways, I wanted to tell you guys about what happened, but I also want to give myself some time to like process it over the last few days. So a couple days ago, I went to the doctor. I had this thing like going nuts on my back that I was pretty sure it was skin cancer. It's been there for like a long time, and I did not pay attention to it very well. I don't know if I was using work as an excuse because I didn't want to go get bad news, or if I was really just that busy, but it kept being, oh, we got to get this done, and then I'll make an appointment. Oh, now we got to get this done. Oh, we got to hit this deadline. So I told myself as soon as we got done doing our MIT 400 testing, I would go. So I went, and the doctor's like, you have skin cancer, and that looks bad, and you need to go get an appointment and get it cut out right away. So I went online and I did some research, and like I screwed up. Like as soon as I knew something was wrong, I should have been going to the doctor, and who knows. So I'm kind of upset because now whatever treatment we have to do, I'm pretty far behind the 8 ball, and I have no idea how bad it could be. So this could suck, or it could be like absolutely nothing. So I'm trying not to freak out or anything. I got to go to the doctor. So we go to a specialized doctor who should start cutting in like a couple days, like 3 days from now. So I don't think we'll have any news by the end of the next episode, but the next episode we should know one way or another, like if I have a longer term problem that's going to go down the road, or if it's just, you know, something we got cut out. So I wanted to let you guys know that, just so you can kind of know what's going on with me in case you don't see me as much as usual. If I'm dipping out for certain sections of the build or something, just know that's what's going on in the background. And the other thing I guess I would just say is a little bit of a PSA, a little bit of a reminder to everybody, just take care of yourselves. You know, if you need to take time for yourself to go do something for your health, like do it, because I'm very frustrated that I put work before my health, and who knows what may happen because of that. So that feels really stupid, but life lessons, and we learn from them and we move on. So that's it for this episode. The next episode, I will show you guys around the house. I'll probably hang some artwork right here, and I'll see you guys then. Peace! Come on.